I'm so happy to be here today. Thank you. My name is Claire Lewis. I am with the University of Florida, and I'm the director of the Florida Friendly Landscaping Program. I'm going to talk to you today. I have a lot of slides, so I'm going to talk kind of fast. Tell me to slow down if I'm going too fast, or if you want me to go over something. I welcome any kind of comments as we go through this. Today I'm going to talk about some of our programs that we have for professionals and resources and just different ways that we can all get involved and hopefully work together. Have you all heard of Florida Friendly Landscaping before? Maybe a little. I'll go through, I'll give you a little background on the program, but what we are is we're a science-based approach to maintaining an attractive and diverse landscape. And what we do is we're funded through 319 grants. So what our major goals are really water quality protection. So while we deal with the landscape, our ultimate goal is the water quality at the end. And we do that through teaching 9 principles of Florida Friendly Landscape. And so they're up here on the screen. I'm going to go through each one briefly. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on them. If you want more information on the 9 principles, you can go to our website, or I can get you some materials. Just reach out to me and I can mail you some of our manuals and things like that. But today I wanted to kind of go bigger picture than the 9 principles. And as I mentioned, we're funded through 319 grants. We're also listed, the whole program is in our state statute. It's 373.185. And we have kind of different audiences that we teach these 9 principles to. And then so we tailor our messaging and our education towards each audience. So where you all would be the professionals, and we would have material specifically for you. We also have material for homeowners and municipalities and builders and developers, things like that. So wide range of audience, wide range of materials. We've been around for more than 30 years. So we're pretty well established, but we're always trying to grow and reinvent, not reinvent, but make sure that we're keeping up with the times and making sure that we're giving the best information that we can. We're also in the state statutes under the GIBMP program. Has anybody attended the GIBMP training? No? You? So anyone who applies commercial or who applies fertilizer commercially in the state of Florida needs to go through our training first, and then they apply for a license with FDACS. So we're partners with FDACS on that. However, institutional properties are exempt from that. So that's why some of you are not, GIBMP certified. And I wanted to kind of take a big picture look at the state of Florida and, where we are in our water issues and our landscape and environmental issues. So on this map, you won't be able to see it on this little screen, but Florida is the #1 state that people are moving into. I thought it was pretty interesting. Any guesses on what the #2 state is? Huh?
The other day, Texas.
Idaho.
Oh,
Idaho. What? I think Texas might be it's number 4 on this year in 2022. So this is the latest data that I had. And where are they coming from? The #1 place they're coming from is New York, and the #2 is Illinois. And when I was in school a very long time ago, I had a professor talk about people from New York took I-95 down the east coast of Florida and ended up in, East Coast, Miami, Broward, the east coast of Florida. People from Illinois took I-75, ended up on the west coast of Florida and Tampa, Clearwater area. I would say that bode true for my family. They're all from Illinois. We ended up in Clearwater. So just interesting. In this map here, the urban areas are in red. This is from 2010, so it's a little old. And there's a study done by the Thousand Friends of Florida and UFGO plan to try to look at what our current development patterns were and what they would be if we continue to develop in the way that we are now. And we are saying right now we have approximately 1,000 people a day moving into the state, with 400 new homes being built every day. So these decisions and these new developments are really important in how we develop and how we think about our landscapes and how we think about how our landscapes function. This is what they would project the state to look like in 2070 if we didn't change anything that we do now. So that one's a little hard to look at. I'm going to talk about a little research that one of my colleagues, Dr. Nick Taylor, does, and he works with a program called H2O Save, who monitors water use and water quantity. And so he did this study of over 931,000 homes, and just showed that the average indoor water use was 126 gallons per day, and average outdoor use was 94 gallons per day. When you looked at the new homes built since 2015, the outdoor use went up to 133 gallons per day, which is a 40% increase in the amount of outdoor water use. So that's pretty significant. He also has this graph that shows the blue is the water use, and then the orange is installed irrigation systems. And you can see how now when you buy a home, an in-ground irrigation system usually comes with it. And that's, a relatively new phenomena. In about like 1990 is really where you really start. 85, 90 is where it really starts to ramp up. So that's kind of where some of our water quantity problems are coming from, is that most of these irrigation systems are using potable water. Also in his research, they did this infographic, and also the screen's a little small and might be hard to see, but in this infographic, you can see that one irrigation, and this is for a home, not for a commercial landscape, but so one irrigation event is equal to an 8.25 hour shower. It's kind of hard to imagine that, right? It's also equal to 37 loads of laundry. I guess I didn't really realize how much water laundry used, because it's not all that much. But there's some documentation in this EDIS document if you want to find out what kind of parameters they used. It's also on the slide here. But just to kind of get an idea of the impact of these irrigation systems on our water that we have available in our state. This is from Deirdre Irwin. She works for the Water Management District, and really just saying that right now conservation is still our best option. There's things like, reclaimed is certainly very common now, but, thinking about reverse osmosis or using, different types of water systems, those are really going to increase the amount of money we spend on our water. So right now, where we're at, still conservation is what we're focusing on. And we're focusing on water conservation because also with water runoff, you can start to really have a lot of nutrients enter our water bodies. I think most of y'all are probably familiar with that. If you're working out in the landscape, you really need to know, what kind of conditions your plants need to grow and thrive. Because once you do that, you're really gonna, address a lot of the problems down the line as far as, irrigation and fertilization and pest management. There we go. Water efficiently is the second principle. And since I lost so much time, I'm really going to go fast through these guys because I feel like this is information that you know. But, watering early in the morning and, watering less in the cooler months is a great way to save on your irrigation. Fertilizing appropriately.
Is there just a rule of thumb of what is considered if you do water, what is considered a conservation?
We say between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch per irrigation cycle is what we recommend. And then we recommend, waiting till your plants really show that they need water. So like in the turf grass, if the leaves are the blades are folded, or if your footprints stay in the grass, that it's showing some type of stress, then go ahead and water it. And that really encourages a more robust root system in the grass, makes them grow down deeper, makes them a little more resilient. Mulch is great for, aesthetically. I think it's beautiful. It ties the whole landscape together. And, it's also good for buffering those soil temperatures and reducing weeds. With the mass urbanization we have right now, it's really important for us to do what we can to try to help attract wildlife and support wildlife. And we can do that through plants, mostly native plants. And I don't know if any of y'all were in Rhonda's talk earlier, but she did talk about the need for different levels of plant material. So you want kind of low growing, ground covers that support, some types of wildlife and birds in the mid-level for other perching birds, and then the higher canopy for different animals. So also the importance of leaving, if you have a natural area or something like that, leaving a snag, which provides all kinds of different habitat for birds and, insects and things like that. Managing landscape pests responsibly. So right plant, right place goes pretty far with this. It helps if the plants aren't stressed, they're less likely to attract a pest. And then also, practicing IPM with your landscape plants. Does anybody know what the insect on the left is? That's the larval form, the baby ladybug. So that one will turn into the ladybug. It looks so different. It's so surprising. Recycling, trying to recycle the grass clippings and fallen leaves and things like that is just, it saves time and money and energy. All kinds of good things come out of it. And it reduces things going to the landfill. Reducing stormwater runoff is principle number 8. And so, you do that through really just trying to capture that water close to where it originates and keep it on site rather than letting it go down the storm drains. And then protecting the waterfront is number 9. And we do that, by planting a low maintenance buffer by the edge of the pond. It's a great way to reduce erosion and also help filter that stormwater before it runs into the pond. Next, I'm gonna breeze through a little bit of research, a little background that we've done. As I said, we are a science-based program, so everything we do relies on the research and education that's coming out of the university and other institutions around the state. So the first one I'm going to talk about is some landscape plots that we did on the university campus where we replicated these 3 designs, and what we wanted to do was do more of a traditional landscape in the front yard and a Florida-friendly in the back. So the front yard had 75% turf and 25% plant material, and the backyard had just the opposite with 75% plant material. Also, the front had, more of a traditional irrigation system with just rotors and spray head spray in the landscape, and the back used micro irrigation and smart irrigation technology. And it saved 83% of the water using that smart irrigation. So that's a significant savings. We also were looking at the maintenance for the 2 different landscapes. And what we found was it was pretty much a wash. Where the traditional landscape, most of that maintenance was in the mowing and the edging and things like that. In the Florida friendly, it was more hand weeding and hand, removing pests and things like that. So what I would think is over time, the weeding and things like that would go down, because once the plants mature, you're not going to have as much weed inclusion. We also looked into some different, ways that you could save water. And this is really just to help people figure out, in their own landscape or on their own project, what kinds of things that they, made sense for them financially to do. And so one of the things that, I'm sure you can't see that from here, but one of the things you could do is you can convert spray head nozzles to multi-stream, multi-trajectory nozzles, MSMTs, and you would save about 3,000 gallons of water per year per 1,000 square feet. So that one's a pretty easy swap out, just swapping out the heads. Not a big commitment. We have some other things that you could do, skip a week irrigation and things like that. And so we estimated the water savings on those. This is a different research out of Orlando, IMREC, and they were looking at really what did people prefer in their landscape. So if you look at number 1, there's not really much landscape material there at all. It's pretty much just turf. Option number 2 is about 25% plant bed. 3 is 50, 4 is 75, and 5 is 100%. Do you all have one that you like the best? If you can see it on those little tiny pictures. What we found is plant people really like 100%. Most general population goes between the 50 and 75%. So I think that's a great thing to fall back on, is like people do like plants. I think they want it organized, they want to know what they're looking at, but they're not against plants per se. So next one I want to talk about is we have a few recognition programs, and we do recognize commercial and institutional property, so that's something to keep in mind. We'd love to work with you if you have a property that you think would meet the criteria. We'd love to come out and talk to you about that and promote Florida Friendly. So one thing for homeowners that we've started to do is a pledge, and we've found that pledges, there's research showing that if someone pledges to do something, they're more likely to do it. And this is really just to introduce them to Florida Friendly and get them thinking about what they could do to their landscapes. But then when people are ready to get their landscape recognized, we have recognitions for home landscapes, for commercials and commercial landscapes, for new construction, and then also we have a neighborhood recognition that has just started. And we have different levels. So there's silver level, there's gold, and there's FFL natural. And I'm rather new in my position as the director of Florida Friendly Landscaping, but what we've done since I've been there is we've been starting to incorporate more natives into our requirements and into our plant database. So now even at we didn't have any natives required at all before. So now at silver, we're saying 25%, gold is 40%, and FFL natural is 75%. You might see something on here in FFL natural. This is really, we were losing part of our audience, right? Because we didn't have enough natives really in our incorporated throughout our program. And the world is changing. People are understanding how important native plants are, and they get it now, right? So we wanted to have something to, for that audience too, because they're important. So this FFL natural, it's more emphasis on native plants and attracting wildlife, and really no fertilizer, no irrigation, and spot treating for pests. So it's kind of much more of a hard line. But one thing that stands out on this one is, and I always get flack for this, no outdoor cats. So because they're really detrimental to our bird population. And this is, more homeowners, or I don't know that a commercial property could do. Well, you've done FFL natural.
We do have a few stray cats on campus, trying to keep them out of those gardens.
Well, you can't do that, but
Few people that feed them, most of them are out more towards the preserve. It's like, okay, if I find a fish just in I think, can you move it over there?
yeah.
When you get rid of the cats, you gain rats.
That's what I found in my house. My cat just died and we got rats. I was like, oh my God. It really is.
We also help with the drip. Rats will eat the drip lines because they can sense the water in it, so the cats will.
Yeah, that's the one. We've gotten a lot of pushback on the no cats. And we're flexible. We'll talk to people. And so if you're interested in getting recognized, you can go to the website, you can download the checklist and see if you think you meet the criteria. If you think you meet it, then you reach out to your county extension office and they'll send out someone to come and walk around the landscape with you.
Tell us about website.
Yeah, so if you go to floridafriendlylandscaping.com, and then there's a page on there that's FFL recognitions. Thank you. We've partnered with WaterStar. Does anybody work with Florida WaterStar? So they have a gold level now, and they've incorporated Florida Friendly into that, which really focuses on, because they pretty much focus just on water conservation. So this was their attempt to get to water, quality. So we partnered up with them on that. These checklists are in all kinds of different things throughout the state. There's something called the Low Income Housing Tax Credit that FFL is incorporated into, Florida Green Building Coalition. And BMAPs, you get credit for having a FFL program in a BMAP area. So now I'm changing gears a little bit here, and I'm going to talk about some of the programs we have for people, where those were for landscapes, these are for people. So I asked about GIBMP earlier, and that program was really developed through the Florida Department of Environmental Protection with local green industry, professionals, through FDACS, and then also through IFAS. So it was a program that really brought in a large community of people realizing how important it is to maintain our landscapes. in an environmentally friendly way, and that you are such a key audience in that. As I mentioned earlier, it's written into Florida state statute, and it really, what we try to teach and let people know is that green industry professionals are the leaders in protecting our water resources. And, what you do every day is important. And you're ambassadors. You talk to people, you talk to clients, and you talk to other people, and they look at you and they value your opinion. So, we just want to, help elevate you, elevate your knowledge and make sure that you have all the information you need as you go out and you do your really important work. You can get trained in GIBMP. You can go to in-person classes at county extension offices. There's some Zoom trainings. There's other online training opportunities, and also DVDs for different companies.
What does that stand for, GIBP?
Green Industries Best Management Practices Program. We also have something called the Florida Friendly Certified Professional. This is voluntary, where GIBMP is mandatory for anyone commercially applying fertilizer. This is a voluntary program, and it really is just looking at to give people more knowledge on why they're doing what they're doing, and to give them added credentials. So it's a voluntary program. If you go through the program, you have the option to be listed on our website. So if someone's looking for someone who is Florida friendly, they can find you on our website, and you can use our logo that's right down there at the bottom.
Is that through extension?
Yeah, yes it is. And we have regional trainings all throughout the state. And what you do is there's some online courses that you take. If you have another license, then you may not need to take as many courses, but there's 6 of them otherwise, and then you attend a field module, and then you take a test. So that's how you become FFLCP certified. There's a new thing that's coming up, and through the Florida Stormwater Association, there is a new stormwater rule that went into effect last year. We have a qualified stormwater inspector certification training that we are developing right now. It's going to launch in June. And what this stormwater rule said is that anybody who's maintaining green stormwater infrastructure needs to be either an engineer, working directly under a PE, or have attended this certification program. And I suspect there'll be other certification programs coming out, but we are getting ours launched as soon as this rule. Yeah. And so this is going to be 100% online. And we had to do it that way because basically just the times, we had a year to put this together, and we wouldn't be able to train all the extension agents in how to do this. This is kind of out of their wheelhouse a little bit. They know about plants, but some of this is inspection of the, the systems, the pipes and things like that.
What does that affect? When it becomes effective?
So the stormwater rule went into effect, I think, last April, but this doesn't come into effect until June of this year.
Like 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, boy, we're working hard on this. I think it's going to be a really good training. It's led by Dr. Evan Bean. He's kind of traveling all around. You may have seen him speak. And so right now what we did prior to that was we have this Green Stormwater Infrastructure Maintenance Manual, and it has, it goes through the different types of GSI, like cisterns and green roofs and stormwater ponds, rain gardens, pervious pavement, things like that. And we also have a plant guide that goes along with that. In this plant guide, I think this is more of a living document. We haven't printed this. What we're looking to do is really, kind of get real granular on each plant and get into maintenance recommendations. I'm sorry, this is also small, but so this is where we want to bring it out to, is because what we're seeing is, cities and institutions are spending a lot of money, installing these green stormwater infrastructure systems. And if they're not maintained, they're not working, right? Like the plants are what's uptaking these nutrients. So, really kind of, and I think we've also just identified that there's a knowledge gap in the native plants and how to maintain them. You see them kind of fail, like they cut them too short, or they prune them at the wrong time of year, things like that. Like there's some failure. It's just a little bit different. So we really do need to get better information on how to maintain these native plants, and we're working on that. But there's a lot that goes into it. But this plant guide also will tell you like what type of stormwater system it would work in, where on the slope, if it's on the slope or by the water's edge, where it belongs. We give information on spacing, on how far apart, because a lot of times these systems, you're planting a lot of plants, right? So how far apart to plant them and things like that. We also go through the checklist, as I mentioned earlier, and just for things to look at within the systems. So that's all in that manual, and will be in the training that we're doing. So we're partnered with DEP, and we worked with DEP to develop this Green Stormwater Infrastructure website. And this website is really intended to be a clearinghouse of information on GSI. And, that's specific to the state of Florida. Like when you look at GSI, you see a lot of things up north, but you don't see a whole lot that's Florida specific. So that's what the website is aiming to do. There's information there. There's a presentation that you can download and give to, your constituents. There's a brochure. There's the manual I just mentioned is on there. There's different case studies, and then there's going to be a list of the people who have attended this certification training, and we'll have that on our website too. So this might be interesting to you if you're looking to install GSI in your, on your, property, on your campus. There's grants, and so DEP has money for GSI, and they are willing to talk to you about it. So they will work with you and help you through the process. Right now they have a lot of money, and they're like, we are looking actively. They want people to apply, and they also have some education grants out there too. That's a new thing. So where these are kind of shovel ready projects, they're also looking more for educational programs like ours. So this is great. If you need more information on that, you can reach out to me and I can pass that information on. It's not on this slide on who to contact for those 319 grants. Next, I just would like to show you, you may have seen our manuals before. We have one for home landscapes. We have one it's a plant selection and landscape design guide, and the Green Industries Best Management Practices program. This is what they look like now. So I just wanted to put the slide up so that you know that you're looking at our documents. They've changed, the design of them. So we also have free apps on our website. So we have a plant selection app, the plant guide. We have a butterfly garden app and a bee garden app. We have a fertilizer ordinance for all those, those folks out there who are applying fertilizer, who, it changes from city to city. You can cross the street and you can have a different ordinance on the other side. So that app is really handy for those types of people. And we also have a toxic plant app. I really like the butterfly garden app. And the picture will be small, but like it has even with the the larval form and the pupa, and you can see so you can see what that caterpillar is going to turn into, or you can ID your caterpillar. So I really like that app, and our plant guide is great as well. I do have a slide on it. It works just like an app should. You can filter for different things. So I think on this one I filtered for a native plant that was a ground cover that could grow in like part shade, and then you get the information on the plant and what it needs to grow and things like that. But it's free on our website. Please download it. It's also, this one is available on Apple and Android phones, for at the stores. Our other ones only you can get from our website. We also have webinars. We have a monthly webinar series, and we have a webinar series for homeowners, but we have a webinar series for professionals. And the one for professionals is, it is available for CEUs, for landscape architects, for property managers, for FDACs, for FNGLA, LIF, and also some of them are ISA. It doesn't say here on this one, but some of them are ISA certified. And then also we've just recently become CEU provider for planners. So some of those are planners. And so they're free if you want CEUs for those webinars. So the CEUs are $15. But if you just want to go back, they're all recorded and on our website if you want to see any of the past ones. We have some great ones. Mostly it's different faculty members through the university who are talking about their research. So there's information on lethal bronzing, on different, new varieties of turf and things like that. Those courses that I mentioned that were prerequisites to be FFLCP, these are the courses on our website. So also approved for CEUs, but there's a wide variety of different courses on our website. And we started, have any of y'all seen the Flip My Florida Yard TV show? You have? So it's kind of crazy, right? We're doing a TV show, Flip My Florida Yard, and it's a lot of fun. We just wrapped up season 4, and we changed the format a little bit on that one, but as a result of having that TV show, we're also able to do some other fun side gigs. And one is really to do this Hire Florida Friendly campaign. And that campaign is really not so much about people who've attended our training, but people who are landscape professionals who take it seriously, who are going and getting, advanced training and keeping up on the latest technology and skills in landscape. So radio commercials and some TV spots, some things for social media is what this Hire Florida Friendly campaign's about. I'll finish up in a few, and then I can have some questions. So at the university, we always have to justify, why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing, as we should. So we have some infographics and things like that. And this one here shows it's about water, and it shows that the education that the extension offices are doing across the state in teaching Florida Friendly have saved over 375 million gallons of water, which is, that amount of water would be enough to satisfy over 4,000 houses for all the water they needed a year. We don't feel like this captures everything that we do, but right now this is our best way of monitoring that. It's also just a single year where these things would be cumulative year after year. Another interesting thing that comes out of this survey, and that's how we get our data, right, is a survey. And I know I am so tired of filling out surveys. So I appreciate it when people do fill this out. But according to this survey, 90% of people who have attended a training make some type of change in their landscape, even if it's just a small one. And that's, that means a lot to me, because it tells me that what we're doing out here is making changes. It might be gradual, and I think we all have that. We're all doing that. So people listen to us, and what we say is important, and we can.
Is this specific to like municipal water, or is this well water?
So some of this is estimated from that table I showed you earlier, and some of it's actual water savings. So like the estimate, like wells, we don't have any way of really measuring that. So that would be an estimate. We also have an infographic on nitrogen reduction. And this, I know you can't read it, but according to this, FFL efforts prevented an estimated 119,000 pounds of nitrogen from entering the waters. That doesn't even sound like all that much, right? But it's so expensive to fix these problems after they've happened. That's $59.8 million that was saved as a result of just that amount of fertilizer reduction. So it's much easier to prevent it than to fix it, I guess, with most things in life. But just something to keep in mind, and we're always, working on trying to reduce that pollution. Scroll down here just a little bit, and I've just got a couple more slides, as you can see, and I'm going to just give some examples of some things that people have done in their landscapes to make them a little more Florida friendly. So this in Sumter County, it was their library right there in the Villages, I think. And they had annuals, and they were replacing them, I think, 4 times a year. And what they did was, instead of the annuals, they replaced them with perennials. Easy swap out, right? And that saved almost $3,000 a year. So that's easy. It's lasting. You might have to switch out your perennials every couple of years, but you're going to save. That's a win-win, right? Like that one's easy, really first steps. This is an example from Broward County, where this housing complex contacted their extension agent, and they went through what their landscape maintenance practices were, and they advised them to follow IFAS recommendations. So they reduced their water use, they reduced their fertilizer and their pesticide use, and with that they saved $33,000 a year. Also cumulative, goes on year after year. And if you look at this picture, I would say the after picture is more beautiful than what the before was. So they made that savings, and they have not sacrificed any of the aesthetics of their landscapes. So it can be done. This one was in Flagler County, and this is a 1,000-acre community. So kind of keep that in mind. That number is pretty big. They were having turf die out in the medians. I think medians are just notoriously hard. That irrigation heads get run over. It's hot and dirty and dusty, and it's hard. It's a harsh environment. So their turf kept dying, and they've been replacing it numerous times. And they're kind of like, we need to do something else. So they worked with their extension agent. They replaced it with a ground cover that was hardier than the turf was in that situation. I think they reduced the annual rotations from 4 down to 2. And the big thing that they did was they stopped hurricane cutting their palms. And actually, I think what they did is they went from hurricane cutting their palms twice a year to once a year. And that saved $25,000. And, we don't recommend hurricane cutting the palms. It's the best kept secret that no one knows about. But when you do that, you're taking the nutrients away from the palms. You're not making the palm any healthier. You're actually making it more, more sensitive to a storm event.
What's hurt?
Oh, it's hurricane.
Trimming all your plants before that.
Well, so what we recommend is that when you trim a palm, you do it from 9 to 3. So don't trim anything under here. Don't trim anything above there. Like you want the full crown. But when you see them, they look like a little pineapple.
Yeah.
That's what's not.
We do dead and broken only. We do dead and broken only.
Yeah. See, and so what we recommend is you have brown fronds. You can take those off, and keep a full head. It protects the crown of the tree and really makes it a healthier tree. And saves a lot of money. And, I don't know how many people are using spikes to climb their trees anymore, but, spikes are really bad for the palm trees. Those wounds don't heal, and it allows for different, bacteria and things to get in the tree and harm the tree.
Where my heart likes to say that it releases these foreign pheromones, and then it's like, woohoo, house party. And causes damage, destruction.
Termites, what's the
Yeah,
problem?
and you're asking for sailing well, you're asking for lethal running, you're asking for all kinds of problems, because let's be honest, the arborists aren't cleaning their blades and sterilizing between cuts.
Yep. And so that's a really easy thing to sell if you want to look kind of like a hero. This isn't recommended. You'll save a lot of money, and the tree will be healthier. So so that's a pretty good sell. And really, that's the end of my broken up, messy presentation. Yes, sir.
Great presentation, by the way. Way to filter through
I was like, I'm going to have to talk with no props here.
What would you recommend? Do you ever work with homes that are located in a homeowners association? I saw you had one example, I think it was in Broward County. What would you recommend when there's just restrictions on property in terms of introducing plants in a landscape that they really prefer just lawns?
So, that's hard, right? You need a board that's willing to talk to you, first of all, and so our folks will come and sometimes it's good to have that third party is what we found, because a homeowner will be working with their HOA trying to, have them, let them change their yard or something like that, or change some of their maintenance practices they're doing around the pond, and they just, don't get anywhere. But sometimes having a third party come in and talk, that helps. We have some documents on that. We have an EDIS that's how to work with your HOA, and it talks about showing pictures to your board, of what you're going to do with your landscape, and just gives you some ideas on how to try to encourage the HOA to allow more Florida-friendly plants and landscapes. We're doing a big push right now for working with HOAs, because we just feel like it's a really important audience. And so we have quite a bit, but like we have model code documents, we have what else do we have? Just presentations we can give to them, kind of first steps and how they can start to get started. It's an important audience. It's not always an easy. So we also encourage people to get on the board. So in all your free time, we encourage you to get on the board. Rhonda.
So we're lucky in that I work with a lot of nursery gardeners and do an active the botanical garden. And because so many of our gardens are certified, I'm now getting some of our master gardeners that are on their boards for their HOAs. And this year I've had 3 different HOAs I've gone out and visited and invited them to our gardens because they have this preconceived idea of what Florida friendly is, and they think it's like our natural wild woods. And then when they come out and then they see the different gardens and the different garden styles, it starts to change their perspective. And then I've been able to then turn around and go out and give the exact same recommendations that our master gardeners were giving to the board, but now they listen. It's coming from a different voice, and it's been effective. So it's small little changes like that. But yeah, I think it's good to get that third party because I don't know, because like I have to use it too for where I'm at just to get things done too. Need somebody else to say, yeah, that's a good idea.
Right. And yeah, like maybe starting with their medians or something like that is a good place to start, the CDD areas. I think someone else had a question. Yes, sir.
I had a question about Flip My Yard.
Uh-huh.
1, how can I get involved? And 2, how can my organization try to help support that y'all got going on?
Thank you. Well, we just finished season 4, as I said, and I will be seeing our grant manager later today, actually. They're talking about a season 5. I'm not sure we're going to have a season 5 yet. It's DEP that pays for that TV show. So we will see if we're going to get a season 5.
And I can actually help you out with that. I was on season 3 of My Florida Yard. It was and I know the person that runs it from the DEP perspective, so I can get you connected.
Thank you.
Yes, and they take volunteers too. If you're in the area in the home that they're kind of revising or renovating, they'll take volunteers to help out for the day.
So I seen that, Mark's like, you about to get that ready.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's like it's a busy day. Yeah, and that same person who was probably you were working with Flip My Florida Yard is the person who's our grant manager if you were looking to apply for grants to install GSI.
That's a good question.
Claire, do you know if the GSI for the swag, will that also include floating wetland island project?
They did some of those, yeah. And so I can't say exactly what they're looking for, but they want a bigger project. Like that can be like, yeah, that'll be part of a bigger project, and they would fund that. Okay. Yes, sir.
With respect to this being tied to the university, is there any type of advice you could give to how your relationship works with the director of facilities and how that example could be used as teachers?
Wow, that's a great question. And it's even on UF, we don't have that many Florida-friendly properties, right? Like I think a lot of them probably would qualify, but they haven't been recognized yet. I think working with facilities would be the way to go, absolutely. So if you're demonstrating and showing people the right way to do it, and that's like number 1, right? And so I know at UF we've trained the facilities folks, even if they're not applying fertilizer, we've trained them all in GIB and P, just as a good base of information. So that would be, I think, the first step, even though you're not required to have GIB and P training, on a campus, but it still is really good information across the board on how to, maintain your what I'm trying to say, how to maintain your equipment, safety precautions, things like that. It's just a good base of information that you should know. So that's where I would start, I think.
The stormwater claim, when that comes out in June, is it going to be, should we just keep an eye on the website?
Yeah, I don't think we haven't even thought about how we're going to market this. Yeah, I mean, like get that information out. Certainly our website, we have a mailing list. EP will be, and FSA will be promoting this. I'm not sure exactly how yet, though.
So you just go to the website and look at it.
Yeah, we have a page on the website that is GSI, and it'll link you to it. Thank you.